For years, Neil Peart was treated like a drumming god, precise, powerful, almost untouchable. But what if one of the most respected modern drummers quietly challenged that idea without tearing him down? When Anika Nilles shared her honest thoughts about Peart's style, it wasn't criticism. It was something deeper, something that made musicians stop and rethink everything they thought they knew about technical drumming. Because this isn't about whether Peart was great. That's not even up for debate. This is about how he was great, and whether greatness in drumming has been misunderstood all along. And once you hear this perspective, you won't listen to his playing the same way again. To understand why Anika Nilles' words matter, you have to understand who Neil Peart really was. As the drummer of Rush, Peart wasn't just keeping time, he was building entire sonic landscapes. His playing was known for its complexity, precision, and almost machine-like consistency. Songs like Tom Sawyer and YYZ became benchmarks for technical drumming. But here's the thing, Peart wasn't just admired, he was idolized. Drummers studied him like a textbook. Fans treated his style as the gold standard, and for decades, very few people dared to look at his playing from a different angle, until now. When Anika Nilles, known for her deeply expressive, groove-based style, spoke about Peart, she didn't dismiss him. In fact, she acknowledged his discipline and musical intelligence, but then she said something that caught people off guard. She pointed out that Peart's drumming, while technically brilliant, wasn't always about feel in the way modern drummers approach it today, and that's where things get interesting. Because in today's music world, feel isn't just important, it's everything. It's the subtle push and pull of timing, the human imperfection that creates emotion. So the question becomes, was Peart's perfection actually limiting in some ways? Now, this isn't as simple as technical versus emotional. Peart did evolve. In fact, later in his career, he studied with jazz teacher Freddie Gruber to loosen his playing and develop more flow. That alone tells you something. He knew there was more to explore. But Anika Nilles represents a different generation. One that grew up valuing groove, pocket, and subtlety just as much as complexity. And this is where perspectives begin to clash. Because if drumming is about making people feel something, then perfection might not always be the goal. But that's not even the most surprising part. What Anika Nilles really highlighted wasn't a flaw, it was a shift in philosophy. Neil Peart approached drumming like an architect, every note placed with intention, every fill carefully constructed. But modern players often approach it like a conversation, fluid, reactive, alive. Neil's own playing is full of ghost notes, offbeat accents, and subtle timing changes that create a deep sense of groove. It's less about impressing and more about connecting, and that contrast reveals something powerful. Greatness in music isn't fixed, it evolves. What was once considered the pinnacle can be redefined by the next generation. And this isn't just about Neil Peart, it's about how we judge musicians in general. For years, technical skill was the ultimate goal, faster, cleaner, more complex. But today, many drummers are asking a different question. How does it feel? That shift changes everything, because suddenly a perfectly played fill might mean less than a slightly imperfect groove that makes people move. And this is where Anika Nilles' perspective becomes so important. She's not rewriting history, she's adding depth to it. But here's where things take an unexpected turn. Despite these evolving standards, Neil Peart's influence hasn't faded. If anything, it's become more complex. Drummers today don't just copy him, they interpret him. They blend his precision with modern feel. In a way, Peart laid the foundation, even for the styles that seem to move beyond him. And that's the real twist. The very thing some see as a limitation might actually be part of what made him timeless. Because without that level of discipline and structure, would modern drummers even have a framework to push against? And that leads to one final question. Maybe the conversation was never about whether Neil Peart was the greatest. Maybe it's about understanding why he mattered and how music keeps evolving beyond any one person. Anika Nilles didn't tear down a legend. She reminded us that even legends exist within a moment in time. And as music grows, so do the ways we define brilliance. So the next time you listen to Neil Peart, don't just hear the precision. Listen for the intention, the discipline, the legacy behind. Because maybe greatness isn't about being perfect. Maybe it's about inspiring what comes next.